All right. Well, I am going to get started if you guys are ready. All right. So, good evening, everyone. And on behalf of the UConn School of Business, I'd like to welcome you all to the xCITE Women in Entrepreneurship Network Amplifying Your Goals workshop. I'm Jen Murphy. I'm the director of the Connecticut Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation at UConn, and we are the proud coordinator of the program in partnership alongside our colleagues in the School of Business. And we just think that this is such a great time to be bringing women entrepreneurs together. As you know, March is Women's History Month, and yesterday was International Women's Day. So we're grateful to have such a great group of entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, and those that are supporting women entrepreneurs here together. And we're really excited to get this workshop up and going tonight. We're focusing on amplifying your goals, either the ones that you set for 2021 or goals that you hope to achieve. And as part of this workshop, we'll be utilizing the breakout rooms just to do some activities and just network and connect with each other. So I'd like to introduce to you all Jen Grace Barron. Jen is the co-CEO and Chief Growth Officer of InspireCore, a strategy firm using inspiration to drive success and growth in companies. Before co-founding InspireCore, she had the opportunity to lead large-scale talent strategy initiatives at eBay, Hewlett-Packard, and Johnson & Johnson. She holds a master's degree from the University of Pennsylvania in positive psychology and lives to partner with leaders and companies to break through the next level of meaning, performance, and fulfillment and stand together to catch the waves of positive impact. So please welcome Jen Grace Barron.
Thanks, Jen. Jennifer's fine too. It is so great to be with you all. It is an auspicious time to be women leaders in the world. There is so much great work to do. So I'm so excited to be with you for the next half hour and to spin you off with inspiration to go really take on your goals at a more detailed level. Just a bit about us. We are Connecticut-based. We are women-owned, women-certified, women-run. These are my two co-founders and co-CEOs. We actually have a trifecta CEO structure. Even our advisory board advised against that. And we said, let us run the experiment for a year where we have 3 CEOs and we've never looked back. It works well for us. We often have men leaders say to us, that would never work with dudes, which is kind of an interesting comment. But I think org structures are shifting and evolving pretty quickly. We are an inspiration strategy firm. We help companies grow through inspired people. This looks like your best days more often, a team's best days more often, a company's best years more often. This is what we do. Going to give you just a little bit of a taste of our work in the next 30 minutes surrounding goals. But before we do that, let me just overview where we're going. We're going to talk about energy a little bit in the beginning because this is a crazy time and it's an important time to really be realistic about energy and goal setting. We're going to give you a framework that, in addition to SMART goals, we believe really bolsters and fortifies the goal setting process. Hopefully it's going to spark some new ways of thinking about goals that are going to be highly inspiring and motivating for you. This is called the AMP process. So we're going to get into some basics and talk about really stretching yourself through goals while also being realistic this year. So here's a tool. We just wanted to open up with something kind of fun and valuable. This is what we call the performance pyramid tool. It comes out of sports psychology. So we're going to get you activated in the chat right now. This is a tool that you can use at the beginning of meetings. You can use it for yourself or in a team environment. And it gives you a sense of the raw ingredients that you have present in the people that you're working with in that moment at that time. So what I'd love you to do is I'm going to walk through these 4 levels of energy. And right now in this moment, 5 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon, evening, I want you to give yourself a grade on a scale of 1 to 4. So 1 would be really, really low, like, like you're feeling ill in the physical energy domain. And then 4 would be ready to run around the block. So we're going to walk through each one of these. So go ahead and give yourself a score in the physical energy domain. So we think about this as the quantity of energy that you're bringing to this task at hand, to this webinar. So go ahead and give yourself a score on a 1 to 4. This is the quantity of energy that you're bringing forward. Next is emotional energy and the quality of energy that you're bringing to the task at hand. Go ahead and give yourself a score on a scale of 1 to 4. Third is mental energy, your acuity, your ability to be creative, to have sharpness of thought, connect important ideas. Go ahead and give yourself a score of 1 to 4. And then fourth is purpose energy, or energy that comes from being connected to a purpose that's beyond yourself, right? And if you notice the arrows on either side, as we're developing from the time we're really little, we develop from the bottom up, right? We start and our physical faculties come online, and then a few years later, we've got emotional and mental. Purpose comes at the end. How we become extraordinary is really from the bottom down. Those that are the elite athletes, for example, usually have a very clear purpose and mission that drives the rest of the energy levels. So now in the chat box, I'd love for you to put the total of your 4 different levels. So a perfect score would be a sweet 16. Go ahead, and we'd love to just see what raw ingredients we're working with in the chat on this webinar. Go ahead and tally it up. And Serena's going to let me know what kind of scores we've got.
Ooh, we have Tim with a 15.
Woo!
11, 9, 12, 14.
Good, good. So if you're using this for yourself or your team, right, there's no judgment there. It's very much, it's like, how hard can I push this group? What are the raw ingredients we have for this task at hand? And where might we need to shift the energy or shift the emotions in order to do the task at hand? So just a fun little kind of tool that I wanted to share with you. People have fun using it in meetings. It's an interesting way to start the meeting. So I'm going to ask everybody to stand up. Go ahead and stand up. It's late in the day. Whatever your number is, we're about to raise it by a couple points. And what we're going to do is what's called a boxed breathing exercise, right? We train leaders 3D, and we're going to have you raise your arms and inhale to a count of 4. And then as you lift up and raise your arms up above, you're going to hold to a count of 4. And as you do that, I want you to notice how the length of your body is connected to your ambition around goals. Notice that you're reaching into goals and reaching for what's ahead. And then we're going to have you exhale to a count of 4 and hold at the bottom. So we're going to do this probably once, but maybe twice. We'll see. So think about your goals as you get to the top and hold.
You're broken down
and inhale, 2,
living
3,
life on the
4,
merry-go-round.
and hold, stretch,
You can't find
reach, come up on your tippy toes, think about those goals that are most important, and exhale, 2, 3, 4, and hold at the bottom before taking another breath. We're gonna do one more round. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, and hold at the top. Think of your highest level goals, connection to ambition, reach, excitement, inspiration, elevation. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, and hold at the bottom. Well done, well done. Ooh, what just happened?
Oops, you're going to want to X out of that YouTube tab that just opened.
Okay, can you see my screen again?
Mm-hmm.
How's that?
Perfect.
You're gonna want to X out of the YouTube tab.
Oops, just pause that.
You're broken down and tired of living life on the merry-go-round.
Got it. Thank you, Serena. Okay, and now I just want to advance my slide. There we go. There we go. Okay, everybody have a seat. So just notice if your numbers changed in the last 2 minutes, right? Really important. Here's the idea with energy management, and this is related to goal setting. Time management is really important. Goals are really important. But if you don't have the energy that you need when you block the time to do something, right? We're out of luck. So we really have to pay attention to the energy that we're bringing to the task at hand as well, and shift it when we need to. We need to structure work blocks in the day at times that align to our circadian rhythms, etc. Right? So the energy that we need is important. This is a woman who taught me a lot about goals, and part of how she did that, this is Julia Balfour, and Julia has a firm here in Connecticut, and unfortunately Julia is not with us anymore, but she's still, she passed away, but she is still with me, and she was an incredible mentor for me in the domain of goal setting. And part of how she was an incredible mentor was she saw potential in me and in our firm that we couldn't even see. And she pushed us to stretch into domains and goals that we couldn't even imagine. So part of what we're going to be talking about today is, what is the appropriate stretch? What's the stretch that's so ambitious? It is your moonshot. Right? Really important that we all have a moonshot right now, something that we get pumped about reaching for. It's got to be challenging. That is what's interesting and exciting. And yet, we are still in the throes of a global pandemic. So one of the most important things you are doing as a woman entrepreneur and leader is you are managing a very real dynamic tension between performance and care, right? Stretching into ambitious goals, reaching for incredible performance, holding the bar high for yourself and others, while also tending to our people. Now is a time to double down on love and tending to our people. Right? The trust markets are hot right now. We have to manage this tension really dynamically. So we're gonna share a bunch of tools with you to actually navigate this and strike some balance. Not like you're gonna land there, but in terms of a verb. So this is just kind of a little bit of a disclaimer. There are a lot of ways to set goals and a lot of ways to look at goals. I want to invite you. It's incredibly important for the long game that we are not just thinking about performance goals, but we're thinking about development goals, professional development goals, organization development goals, and personal development goals all at the same time. One is not less important than the other, because the way that we define leadership is it kind of doesn't count if you're not stronger on the other side of the goal line. If you carried the ball over the goal line and you reach the goal, but everybody's dropping out, right? You've got attrition, you've got churn and burn, you yourself are on your knees exhausted. How sustainable is that, right? So again, really thinking thoughtfully this year, especially about how to structure this. So we're going to be talking primarily about AMP goals, but I do want to just say that most of you are familiar with the framework of STRONG goals, specific and measurable and time-bound. That is still important. All of that clarity and specificity is important, but we want to offer you a little bit of a different framework to supercharge your SMART goals, and this is the framework of AMP. So here's how we think about amping your goals. And we actually implemented this as part of a performance management reinvention at a biopharmaceutical company about 5 years ago. And we just had an opportunity to take some more data from how it's going in 5 years. And they love the AMP process. A lot of leaders who've been doing this for a very long time said that the amping has made an incredible difference for their motivation and for their results that they're delivering. So here's how we think about AMP, this crafty acronym. first, we want you to think about how this goal, whatever the goal is that you're setting, aligns to your personal goals in terms of aspirations and strengths and values. So instead of just thinking about it as a goal and compartmentalizing it as a deliverable that that's happening in your work, we want you to actually internalize it and make it a little more personal. Align it to your aspirations, your strengths, and your values. The second part of AMP, and we're going to get into these a little bit more specifically, is mastery. So this is important in adult learning theory 101. You want adults to learn something, the first thing you ask them is, why is this important for you? Right? Because people have a choice. We have a choice about whether to actually learn something or not, and whether or not to deliver on these goals. We have a choice. So mastery is an interesting angle to look at a goal through. Right? What are the ways in which I'm growing stronger through this goal? How will this benefit me in terms of my capability or our team's capability? And then the third piece of amping the goals, this actually comes out of voting voting turnout research. And the pathway is really about thinking ahead. It's like pre-paving the goal. What are the different things that might come up in the way, or that we might need in order to pre-pave or clear the path for this goal? So specifically, the question that they ask that in the voter turnout research, there's one question that they ask that ends up affecting whether or not people actually go vote. And the question has to do with the pathway. The question is, where will you be right before you vote tomorrow? And if people ask themselves that question, they think, oh, maybe I will be dropping my kids off at school, and it clears the pathway in their own mind, even if they weren't planning to vote, that then pushes them into voting when they wouldn't have. So it's just kind of an interesting thought experiment or mental exercise that clears the path for you. So I want you to all think about a really important goal that you have this year, a big, big, meaty one. And I want you to just play this out in your head. And you're going to have a chance to do this as you spin off together. But I want you to start thinking about how this relates and aligns to your personal aspirations, values, and strengths. And specifically with strengths, think about competencies, think about experience. You could even think about character strengths, right? The ways in your personality and your character that align to this particular goal, and make some notes for yourself. How will this goal push you as an individual leader? How will it push you to learn and develop? This is the mastery piece. So just jot down some notes. And then finally, this pathway piece. So I want you to even imagine what could come up, right? What are you going to need along the way? What obstacles could arise, and how might you preempt that? Take a couple notes. I'll share with you a quick example just to make it even a little more concrete. So we have a goal of increasing revenue by 20% in 2021. This is an incredible stretch goal. We, like all of you, are a small firm. We are holding on to the tiger's tail, but it is not easy. This is not an easy year, right? Incredible variability. So this is, in fact, a stretch goal. In terms of alignment, one of the ways that we are conceiving of this goal is that we are looking to activate the strengths across the team and do some team selling. So that's something that we've never really experimented with before. And so far, so good. Just so you know, early research on this is it's working quite well. So we're experimenting with aligning our value of collaboration and building this into the goal and trying new team selling. In terms of mastery, one of the goals that I set is that I have a sales learning corner, which is this 10-minute kind of like lunch and learn at each of our monthly sales and business development meetings. That pushes me to do some learning and to sharpen my saw on some best practices in sales, and then to actually share it in a conversation with our team. And then finally, we've got the pathway for this goal, which is a dashboard. So when you think about like how will, you know, what are the resources or the accelerators that I'm going to need along the way, I'm going to need good data, good real-time data on a weekly basis to know where we are, so that we can know if what we're doing is enough, or if we need to, you know, run a new campaign. So this produces that next level of clarity and visibility and accountability. And then another pathway that we have is a true lens of COVID, right? So what are the parts of sales that we have predicted are going to be significantly harder this year as an outlier year? And so we've pre-paved this year knowing it's likely going to present some interesting challenges and variability in sales in our pathway. So those are some examples of how to amp goals. I'd love to open up for a little bit of Q&A. That was a lot. Before we send you off, I'm curious about what questions you have about goal setting right now, what challenges you're really feeling pressured by. Would love to open it to anyone who might have a question or a comment or an insight.
I guess just, can you hear me okay? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's the first time I've used Zoom on this PC. I guess I had so many goals running through my head. It was hard to really tackle, like, which one is it? I came up with two solid ones. So, but they're not, you know, I'm a CPA in my tax practice, and I'm developing software to keep your financial house in order. So how do you, I guess, when you have two big audacious goals?
2 sounds like a great number. I mean, if you said 10, I'd right?
Well, I guess because then your brain is just like, I don't know, it's just like do. So maybe I just need to do both sets of the AMP.
Oh, yeah. Are you asking whether to mix them, or because
yeah, I guess because they're so different from each other, but
yeah,
connected, I guess.
I think I might try writing them independently, but then I think the interesting thing would come in when you look for overlap, right? Like,
yep,
how could you marry up some of the you know, cross
Thank you. Yeah.
That's
great, because it's about tax prep, and it's about keeping your financial house in order. So taxes flows into keeping your financial house in order. Thank you.
Yeah, and I don't know anything about your business, but like the more marriage that can happen, the better as you're continuing to grow. And I would say whatever work you're doing in your current business, like I would start on ramping, thinking about how that network can support your other venture as well.
Love it. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
I have a question, because can you hear me?
Yeah, Regina.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you're tying this with a bit, you know, like whatever business you work for. So what happens if the business or the company that you work for have these very lofty goals, which are not realistic? And you're trying to say, well, this is more of a realistic picture based on whatever criteria or whatever evidence you have. So how would you handle, what would you recommend in terms of handling that?
That is tricky. It's tricky, right? I mean, this is one of the pieces that organizations struggle with and suffer from the most is overextension, committing to goals that are over capacity. And so, I think you want to be real with yourself that doesn't seem like a good practice, and do anything you can to try to offer the data that says, I don't think this is going to produce not only these results, but maybe good things in our workforce, right? Because what essentially happens is if a group of leaders are over committing the organization, they're going to, the people doing the work are going to run into cynicism, and they're going to throw their arms up and say, well, what are we doing this for? So there are much bigger implications for your workforce. And if I were you, I would do my best to carry that up the flagpole as high as, your concerns, as high as you could go, while also being realistic about, in some environments that could get you into a lot of trouble. So you're going to have to navigate that really carefully and politically.
And that's the tricky part, is navigating it.
Yes, it is. That is a different workshop.
Yeah.
What else? Those were great. What are you thinking about? What are you concerned about? What's on the horizon? What's most challenging this year?
Well, can I go even though I asked them one question? Well, one of the things that you talked about are resources, right? So depending on, I mean, and you're in a big company, obviously you have a lot of resources. Sometimes, depending on the business unit, you may or may not. But if you're working for a smaller company, the resources are more constrained than with a bigger company.
Yeah.
So you can sort of say, okay, if you want to get X done, then you need these resources.
Mm-hmm.
But especially like with COVID right now, everyone is strapped, because every company got affected by COVID.
Yep.
And they're downsizing in a lot of companies. You may not hear about it in the news, but they are. And they're forcing whoever is there to work with, the resources or the time, the I should say resource constraints. And yet, they may be doing just like back in 2008, where people are doing a number of jobs. They're wearing a lot of hats.
Yep. So there is no magic wand here, right? I mean, the good news is that this pandemic is forcing all of us to revisit how work works.
Mm-hmm.
And in this crunchy time while we're learning, we don't have it figured out. We don't even have new policies about how to do this yet, right? So we're in this crunchy time of like everybody figuring this out in the most painful of ways, which carrying lots and lots more than they should. But in that is an opportunity. It is an opportunity. For some, it's I think there is, and I would be interested in others' views on this. I think there's a Darwinian evolution happening in organizations right now. We are seeing this on the ground, that the organizations that are truly putting their people first and listening when people say, I really am at capacity, like I am. I'm at capacity. This is all I can do right now. And trusting that, are rising to the top. The organizations that are doubling down on building trust and taking care of their people are holding on to people. And in companies where that's not happening, people are choosing to go elsewhere. There's a lot of job hopping happening in the marketplace right now. We started seeing it back in April. Like people were just like, that's it. I don't like how my company's handling this. I have choices. And so they were inspired to talk about a tough way to be inspired. But so I think there's just a lot of change happening at all levels. But what I do want to offer you as like really specific, a good specific resource. I love Leslie Perlow's book, Sleeping with Your Smartphone. So I think this is some of the best research done on why it really is important for all of us to be working smarter, not harder, and how to do that. And so she did a 10-year longitudinal research study at BCG, at one of the big 5 consulting firms, and showed that in their most profitable divisions, they were working 50 hours versus in some of the less profitable divisions where they were working 70. So, I just think we're going to have to, all of us, be open to shifting our mindset about how and when and where, and efficiencies of work and workflow, accommodating people all around the world, right? Jobs are opening up for people all around the world. So we're going to have to start thinking in more even more global terms all the time. So while it's going to be painful in the short term, I think in the long term, there is a lot of opportunity to be carving new ways of working.
And you mentioned, what was the name of the book again?
It's called Sleeping with Your Smartphone. I think she has a TED Talk also, Leslie Perlow.
Leslie, and
I'll pop the links into the
Okay.
chat box, and we can send them out after also.
That'd be great.
Jen, we have another question in the chat box. How do you narrow the goals if you're just beginning the process of business planning and startups?
Wow, that's a big question. So we are in year 8 of our organization, and I can tell you that we have learned the hard way that human brains really cannot hold on to more than 5 big goals. Like that's the capacity. That is what works best for our firm. I've never seen an organization execute well on more than 5 big rocks at any given time. Like, it's number 6 always gets forgotten. So ideally organize it in a 3 to 5 big rock range. We still use, we use a lot of Covey's kind of foundational framework of execution, big rocks process. So that would be my recommendation, is craft the goal in a way that it is broad enough and deep enough such that you really only have 3 to 5 that at the highest level. I think it's also a really important year to, we're doing this, and Serena can testify, she can vouch. We have a lot of stuff on we call it our roof rack, right? It's like, it's not stuff we've committed to in the goals. It's on the roof rack. We may have a chance to do it this year, but we may not. We have to revisit it quarter by quarter. We are hearing and experiencing a lot that quarterly strategic planning is really important right now. At least checking in on your strategic plan and your goals every quarter to make sure that it's realistic, to make sure that you're pacing and tracking with how things are changing and evolving. I mean, gone are the days of like 5-year strategic plans that somehow will have any relevance. So yeah, that would be my suggestion. Great question. One more question. Anybody got anything? It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a big year. I just want to tell you that, in closing, I'd love to continue the conversation. First of all, I'm Jen at Inspire Core 1N. Would love to stay connected with you. Serena has all kinds of, all of the iconography. Find us anywhere. That's Serena's passion. I just want to say that, as women leaders, it's a super important year to think about what does next level for your leadership look like, right? So that development goal section, the personal goal section, what does next level look like? Because this is not easy. You are enough, like you are bringing enough, and you have to know that. And it's not easy. So we're all going to need to tool up. We're all going to need resources just like this one and each other to get there together. Don't think you can do it alone. Use each other, find each other, share your learning, share best practices, support each other, hold each other up. Now is the time. This is how we work as women, right? We tend and befriend. We do it together. So I would invite you and hope that that you'll find each other this year. That's what I got.
Thank you, Jen. No, that was great. Thank you.